that are signing certifications, and then when they're asked to come to court, may even be, backing out.
Right. But the point is that I think that, going forward in this community, I think that there's, I would just like to say, we should start over and say that, in order for you to get your certification, you're going to have to see the doctor at least 2 times, and you're going to at least have to have some contact with his office by way of writing or phone calling or, following up with some information about how the cannabis use is going on throughout the year. So the doctor, when they come to court, they've got to.
Here's the other issue. I mean, let's talk about the other issue, which we haven't talked about. The other issue is that the premise behind the medical marijuana bill and a doctor certifying a patient is based on, I told you, the First Amendment. So it's not based on a prescription or a doctor actually prescribing, medical cannabis. So here's the challenge and here's the challenge that we're having, and I'll tell you why I think it's a real challenge and why it's a problem, is that we have people that want doctors and others to take a more active role in the supervision of medical cannabis or medical marijuana users. And so here's the problem with that, is that that's not, the law was not set up to put doctors in a position of having to oversee the efficacy, reliability, the value, the therapeutic benefit of a patient's medical marijuana use. In other words, the law didn't want doctors to sit there and have to say, you're using too much, back off, use less. Or you're not using the right strain. Or you should be you shouldn't be smoking it, you should be vaporizing, or you should be, that wasn't the point of the law.
But you see what's happening in court, Neil. I mean, the one Anderson case.
Michael, I'm there with you, brother.
I know. Here we are. That Anderson case.
These doctors get grilled when we bring them to court. If we can get one of these guys to come to court, they come to court and they get fucking grilled by a judge who wants to know, what was the strain, what THC quantity, what CBD quantity, how much, how often, how many. It's like, Judge, what did you, and I'm tempted to say with certain judges, but I have yet to say it. Well, Judge, what did you do in college? Because that seemed to work pretty good for you back then because you were a pretty decent guy. I haven't said that.
Right, or judge, doctor, or I'm sorry, it's just judge, right? It's a juris doctor, not a...
Judge, I don't know, Judge, what happened to you? Because back when you were smoking 4 times a day in college, you were a great guy to be around. Right. What happened to you now?
You got to go back at meds, Judge. Listen,
I guess my point is that we never wanted doctors to really have to take that much of an active involvement. And I fear that what is happening on a lot of levels is that the more that the judicial system gets its hands into the medical marijuana law, the more that it creates fewer opportunities for patients to really benefit from it. In other words, the more I guess it's like a catch-22. The more the legal system touches it, the harder it is for people to actually get the benefit of it. Does that make any sense?
It does. And this is my point, and it's on the issue that you're talking about. And I agree with you from the perception of how the law is supposed to be, how it was designed for the physician, and what role they're supposed to play. And anything other than that misses the point and misses the interpretation. And with that being said, from where we are right now, with the challenges going forward, I think that there is a little bit of a vision that medical cannabis would at some point be integrated into the general practice, that you would not necessarily be going to, a certification clinic, that you would find, what is it? Mike, where is your place?
But everything they're doing right now
is the DMC at some point
the opposite of that. Is to not mainstream cannabis. They want to keep it.
You're exactly right. Who's that? Jamie? Was that Jamie?
That's Chad.
Wait.
Exactly.
They don't want it to, but the only way for it to happen is to educate the medical community and have them honest, if they're willing honestly, and some will come forward, but the way to do it is to legitimize those that are doing it and have and it follows some methods and standards. You know, I mean, you know, like for example,
bullshit. Here's the difference. Right now, there are laws that are based on there are natural laws, and as lawyers we call those things malum in se. Those are things we know that are. I know, but you and I both know that it is not that the only law that really applies to a doctor. The only law that should apply to doctors is the Hippocratic Oath: do no harm to your patient. After that, it's fucking fair game. Now, what happens is that we've got bodies and overseeing bodies that and we've got malpractice carriers, we've got hospital affiliation groups, and they all say that they all have different rules, and their rules are related to making money. And the money-making rules don't want those rules. They don't want doctors certifying. One of my favorite things to hear from a patient, which is so awful, which is when I sit there and I have a patient in my office who's really suffering from like multiple sclerosis or Crohn's or HIV or cancer, and I've had those patients in my office, and they tell me that and I say, well, who certified you? And they say, my oncologist or my neurologist. And you look and you think, okay, there's like this is what the law, this is what they all want to hear. You know what I mean? But other people benefit from marijuana just as much. What's that?
It happens so rarely, and I think
that's the problem.
But it would be nice if more doctors were open to it.
I agree.
Okay, so how does that?
I would love to see. If you could say, Neil Rockind, what's your medical marijuana wish list? Here's my wish list for the passage of bills. I would like to see a bill that says some
none should be passed.
What's that?
None should be passed, but you're saying not to amend the act, but some other bill that would.
No, some other bill that were to say that a patient. I would like to see that a patient or a doctor shall not. Refuse to sign a medical marijuana certification, or if the patient otherwise qualifies, that a physician shall not refuse to sign a medical marijuana certification because of affiliation, malpractice, whatever.
This is the point, really, and I don't want to. I hope I wasn't misinterpreted, but the point that I wanted to make was that. The reason there aren't more doctors is because they're afraid. They're being made to feel afraid because there's a pressure by law enforcement. And the question is, if a doctor is told by an agency that manages them, look, this is how we expect it to be, they may in fact feel more comfortable doing that.
I don't know why they're not signing recommendations. I really don't. It's
that
on
may be some of the
layers.
reasons. Well, listen.
I'll tell you why they're not doing it.
One of the things that happened in Colorado
they became doctors. Look,
doctors. They made a lot of.
How many doctors do you know? How many doctors do you guys know? And I don't mean this just for doctors, but I mean this for most professions. How many people that entered in a particular profession and didn't do it with at least in the back of their mind that they're going to make money doing it? I mean, isn't that why people become? I mean, you become a doctor. Okay, yeah, they want to help people. All right, I get that. But they do it. They're not. They're also charging for their services. And they're charging insurance companies for their services. So doctors do it because they're the same reason that motivates, many others. They want to make money. So you and I both know that there is money to be made in medical marijuana certifications. And the reason why they're not doing it is not because they can't make money at it. You and I both know that deep inside, if you said to them, hey, don't worry, you can't get in trouble and you can make $1 million a year as certified patients, there'd be fucking doctors lined up on every street corner to certify patients. Because they're interested in making money. These are the same guys that are oftentimes that, you go to their office and they bill 4 procedures at a time. They're interested in making money. But someone's telling them that they shouldn't make money doing this. So who's telling them they shouldn't make money doing this?
I think many of them are afraid that if they did, there's still trouble for them, that they feel confused about this and about that. And if they knew that there was some certainty, you might find more. I don't know. They all.
How many of these doctors that are refusing to sign? I have a question for you. How many of these doctors that are refusing to sign certifications do you think are secretly at home illegally smoking marijuana in their own homes? What percentage? Chad, what do you think? Jamie, what's the percentage of doctors you think that are secretly smoking marijuana in their own homes?
Wow. The physicians, probably not that many, I don't think.
I mean,
you don't think? Do you know how many
like
physicians do you think actually smoke cigarettes? Knowing that it's the single most awful thing you can do for yourself.
A much lower percentage than the normal public. I think everyone in healthcare smokes at a much lower rate than the normal public.
I think that if you go to a hospital, you'll see that there are doctors that are carrying around like packs of Marlboro Lights a lot because they smoke, because they're stressed out. It used to boggle my mind that nurses and doctors would smoke, but they do. And I can't put a percentage on it, but I can't believe that the percentage of doctors that smoke marijuana privately in their own home, maybe even illegally. I mean, is it 5%, 10%? You think it's less than that?
More.
I mean, bet it's 10%.
Yeah, and even if it's 10%, what a huge whopping number.
Yeah.
10% of all doctors, let's say it's 10% of all doctors were to smoke marijuana privately in their own home illegally. So they don't get a certification. They don't want anybody to know. They do it because it relaxes them, or because it makes life easier, because it eases, it makes their sciatic nerve, which is hurt from standing all day. Whatever it is, those doctors get some relief from it. But those doctors aren't signing certifications on behalf of patients. So my only point is not that I'm not trying to point out the hypocrisy of it all, but I believe that doctors aren't sitting around afraid of the licensing board. What's happened is that in order today to make money as a doctor, you have to be affiliated with health insurance providers and a group. You need to be a Beaumont doctor, or be at DMC, or you got to be at Genesis Health.
With you still. Listen, you're listening to Planet Green Trees.
Dramatic music there.
You're listening to Planet Green Trees. The call number is 1-347-326-9626. We have attorney Neil Rockind. We're talking about the...
They usually generate a lot of calls. We've got no calls today, huh?
We got some of the, but I couldn't cut away. Too much interest.
You're a rock star. They're all young girls, Neil. It's a problem.
This is what I wanted to say. I did want to say this. Listen, I am not. I'm looking at it as I often do.
I am a rock star. Yeah, you're right.
We're gonna have you sing along to one of the songs, so stay on. We want to hear if you can really belt it out. Listen, one of the things that I want to be clear, Neil, that what I'm talking about is the perception of how things are from the court's perspective. I am not purporting that the law should be that way, but I will say this. I don't think it would be unfair to start expecting some of the medical marijuana community, physicians specifically, to start coming forward and understanding more about how cannabis interacts with these ailments, okay? For example, there's one physician I know who is very outspoken about how he believes that there's a subspecialty that's developed in his practice, which is called the treatment of chronic pain and opiate addiction with medical cannabis. And he can show over periods of time, as his clients come back to him, as patients come back to him periodically or write into him, that their opiate use has dramatically gone down, or even, and we all know that, but it would benefit everyone if the physicians were more involved in knowing about that and could actually, claim that as a, legitimate, and that's all I'm saying. I think for us, with all the challenges, the community as a whole, it's something to think about, and I would love to see the physicians do that more. I don't think that it should be a requirement.
All right, Mike, let me say this. Hey, Mike?
Yes.
You never have to qualify. Listen, you and I have fought shoulder to shoulder in court before on several cases. So you never have to qualify that you are, that you love to see the law continue or, to be interpreted or implemented the way it was written. Because I think that, I've heard you say that, and I don't think many people disagree with you, that the law, the way that it's currently written, should just be implemented, and let's see how it goes.